Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on the Three Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at 3manblitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Three Man Blitz with me, Jeremy. You got Queasy, you got Andrew. Today we are going to be going over the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks for the upcoming 2020 season. We're going to go from 10 to 1. Before we jump into that, we're going to do some shots. And before we do that, be sure that you go and check us out at our website, 3manblitz.com. Check the podcast out at Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, hit the bell. And as always, follow us at Twitter, where we're always trying to interact with everybody that we can. So send us questions, comments, whatever you got. Anything you want us to do as well.
Very active Twitter.
Yeah. Always Twittering. Let's take some shots.
To twitting.
Oh, I got to pour mine. Y'all poured this time. Y'all are taking
one. I'm going to be sipping on it. I got a real big one.
y'all are whiskey shooting. I'm tequila shooting. It's a special show.
No, rum. I got rum, my friend. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you got rum, whiskey, and tequila because it's a fantasy show now.
That's my fantasy right here.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to kill it.
So sweet.
Yes, sir.
I used to hate tequila. It's so good now.
Jeremy.
It is, though.
Andrew went from, I'm going to sip it to.
Yo, dog. Bottoms up.
One sip hits your lip.
That's a big cup, though.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me.
Now that's a dude.
Andrew went straight Frank the Tank. All right.
It's time for fantasy. Here's our 3 cents.
So
who we got at 10?
So at number 10, we have Matt Ryan for your Falcons, Queasy.
Ooh-wee.
Your Falcons.
Queasy, we'll let you open up on this one. Go ahead, my friend.
I definitely think he's a great fantasy pick, a sleeper. I love Matt Ryan. I think he's going to be born again. We still got the same weapons, pretty much added on Gurley. But I think this is going to be their year. I don't want to be lost in fandom. But again, they got to get it back. They got the same weapons. They still got one of the top wide receivers in Julio Jones. So touchdowns will be there. Ridley's catching on. So spread offense. So it's going to be many chances for him to get touchdowns in the dome. So I think they will do very well. He will do very well.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And all I've really got on that is I'm going to have to say that I think adding Todd Gurley to this offense will give him that extra dimension of a real receiving back. I mean, Devonta Freeman could do it, but that's where Gurley thrives, and he proved it in L.A. And as long as the Falcons actually use him, unlike the Rams were willing to do that last season, then, man, like I said, it's going to open up this offense for sure. And, Julio, he struggled a little bit with touchdowns this past season. I remember going in for the first few weeks, we were all like, Julio, you gotta score, you gotta do something.
Yes.
And now, like you said, you've got Riley Ridley. He's got 2 seasons under his experience, and Matt Ryan is an experienced quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of terrible mistakes. I mean, he'll make a bad throw every now and then, and he catches flack for it. But, I mean, he's going to be able to have that check down now, that solid guy in Todd Gurley, and I think it's going to be the formula for success for him, and we can reap the fantasy benefits.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'd have to agree, and it's why we've got him so high. And again, this is a consensus list, so we all have our separate list, and then we averaged all of them together, and this was our top 10 together. So Matt Ryan, he was definitely high for a reason for what these two guys have said. Todd Gurley, the addition. I think what he brings to you in the backfield is those versatile hands, like you just touched on, Andrew. Circa 2017, 2018, a little, but in that real good season he had with the Rams, if they can bring that back out into him or out of him, I think that you'll see Matt Ryan do really well. Because of course, you got Julio Jones, like you said, he's like one of the best receivers in the league. I don't think anybody would deny that. And then you've got a really good number 2 receiver in Calvin Ridley.
Definitely.
And at least a good tight end back there. But, Matt Ryan can toss it around. They'll be in a couple of good games. They'll probably be behind in a few games, and that just should pad his stats throwing 30 times a game. So, Matt Ryan, number 10.
They do have a tough schedule. And just for the record, I believe I had Matt Ryan at my number 9.
And I do have him as my sleeper for the MVP.
Ooh, nice.
Not trying to be biased, but I do.
Hey, you want to take a shot bet on that?
I will do that. Definitely.
Odds are in my favor. I've got
Definitely.
how many players in the NFL,
Yeah.
Versus that one.
Queasy, where did you have Matt Ryan ranked on your personal list?
I had him at 9.
At 9, okay. I think we agree there. And Jeremy, I think you had him at 11, I believe?
Yeah, I have him at 11.
Right outside of the top 10. All right. Well, we pretty much agree on this guy.
Yeah, we are almost right on with old Matt Ryan. Matty Ice.
Moving
Andrew,
on, my friend.
You want to take the next one, number 9?
All right. Number 9, we have Kyler Murray. I'm not really too surprised by this one. He had a very good season last year, even it being his rookie season. His receiving core has improved greatly with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, look at what this guy did for Deshaun Watson's career. And I definitely think he's one of the better receivers in the league. This offense is going to try to be high-powered this season, and I don't think their defense is fantastic. So, as Jeremy said about Matt Ryan and the Falcons a minute ago, I'll look for them to be behind in a lot of situations, and Kyler Murray is going to be throwing a lot. And a lot of Kyler Murray's issue, I guess, the entire offense for the Cardinals last season was that they really struggled in the red zone. They would, drive downfield just fine, but once they finally got to that red zone, they couldn't score points. Now that Kyler Murray has got hands as freaking baseball mitts, he's going to be able to go up and make those contested catches in the end zone, and I think it's definitely going to be a good fit. And once again, we'll be able to reap the fantasy benefits. I like Kyler Murray right here.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, what can you say that you didn't? He had a good season last year, and then they add in DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, if that doesn't make a quarterback better, what's going to? They didn't really address too many of their offensive line issues. So, like you said, Kyler may be running for his life a lot, but that's part of what he did so good was, he got away from pressure and he made some plays with his feet. He'll give you that little bit of rushing ability. He can still throw real long. And it's not just going to be about DeAndre Hopkins. You've still got Larry Fitzgerald. Dude's 120 years old, but still catching the rock as good as anybody. And then you got Christian Kirk. So they've got a lot of weapons. They're pretty deep at receiver. That's just going 3 deep. And then they got Kenyon Drake. So that should alleviate a little bit of the pressure. So if they can shore up things on the offensive line, I think you'll see Kyler Murray do really, really well. So we have him at 9. If he has the season that he could, potentially he could be, he could be an MVP candidate. I mean, he has that kind of potential, and he could be a lot higher fantasy-wise.
Yeah. Last year, if there was any questions about him, from the very first game, he answered them. It was a comeback game against Detroit, if I remember correctly, and they ended up in a tie. So he answered all the kind of questions. If you had any kind of questions about him, maybe he's not that good, maybe he's too short, he answered those questions. Now with Fitzgerald, of course, adding Hopkins, which can catch anything, and of course Drake still has something to prove from leaving Miami. So he still wants to win. He's getting a taste of winning right now, so I'm sure he's enjoying that. So I think he will do very well.
Oh yeah.
And Queasy, where did you have Kyler Murray and Jeremy on your personal list?
I think I had him at 10 right now.
Yeah. I have him at 6.
I had him sitting at number 8. So we're all pretty close on this guy too.
Yeah. I look for him to have a real good season.
And what I like, what you brought up, and Queasy, you mentioned it too, about Kenyon Drake is opening up that run game. If they can keep that going, then that passing game is really going to flourish. I look forward to that.
The only issue they have right now is what it looks like is that line. So what can they do? Can they shore the line up? Can they make something work? They probably could. All right, so moving on, we'll go to our consensus number 8. and that would be Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers, he's won MVP before. He's obviously a fantastic quarterback. They made it real far in the playoffs last year. He finished last year as the number 9 quarterback, so it's not really a big move up for us consensusly, is moving him up one spot. But what he brings to the table is just that gunslinger attitude. He's got some funky mechanics if you really look at him, but that obviously doesn't matter a whole lot. He can drop a dime off his back foot 50 yards.
That kills me.
Yeah. So
throw off your front foot, Aaron Rodgers. You'll be number 1 on this list.
Yeah, and he's throwing to his number 1. He's got Devontae Adams there, and then after that, they've got Alan Lazard and like Devin Funchess, I believe, amongst others. So, and of course, they got that Aaron Jones boy running the rock back there. One of my favorites from last season, fantasy wise. Got to jab at Andrew a little bit. But Aaron Rodgers, he makes things happen. Last year, if you remember, nobody was talking about Green Bay until they got to the playoffs, and even then they were disrespected all the way through. Yeah. So look for him to make a big splash this season.
I think Jordan Love will do well. We're talking about Jordan Love, right?
Oh yeah.
Jordan Love starter, right? He's heir apparent.
No, Rodgers is a beast. He's a future Hall of Famer, of course. Great quarterback, a known winner. A guaranteed winner. The big issue, of course, in the draft was not bringing any weapons to him. But this has been pretty much throughout his whole career. They haven't brought any offensive weapons for him. But yet he's still a winner. So that ought to tell you something. That he will be up there high in the charts on the fantasy list for the quarterbacks. He will do very well. Definitely has something to prove with bringing in Jordan Love. So I know he wants to prove something. They have a great defense, which will help bolster him also with a winning record. So I expect him to do big things.
No doubt.
What can I say about Aaron Rodgers that these guys haven't already said? They did make it to the playoffs last year. He's a very good quarterback. He's a future Hall of Famer. Blah, 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 blah. We can go on and on and on. But really, look, this guy, he is disrespected, I feel like, by the Green Bay organization. And they don't give him any weapons, but the one thing that I can say about this quarterback that I can't say about very many other quarterbacks in the league is that he makes receivers. Like he doesn't get the talent. They might get a steal in the 3rd or 4th round, or they might trade for a guy who might have some potential. But Aaron Rodgers, who is Alan Lazard? We don't know. Aaron Rodgers created this guy. He said, you know what? I like him. I'm going to hit him with the ball, and it's on target every time, dropping dimes off his back foot, like you said earlier. He would be higher on this list, and by no means any disrespect, but he's just not exactly loaded with weapons. I really like what they're going to be able to do. I think they're going to keep passing the ball. It seems like what Matt LaFleur wants to keep doing. Yeah. But even Aaron Jones can catch a ball every now and then. I don't know.
Catch you a championship.
Yo, dog, sit down. Sit down.
I don't think
rankings later.
Yeah, we will. I don't think you can overstate the largeness of the chip on his shoulder. It's a weird way to say it, but the chip on his shoulder when they drafted Jordan Love, you can't understate it. It's huge, and that does wonders, or I'm assuming will do wonders for somebody as competitive as he is. Also, he made Randall Cobb. You remember Randall Cobb when he was in Green Bay? He was a fantastic receiver there, and he's moved on. I think he's in Dallas now. And he hasn't really become great since he left, and he had a couple really good seasons with Green Bay.
So. In Houston, isn't he?
Is he in Houston?
Yeah,
he's in Houston. What did I say? Dallas? Yeah. He's in Houston.
We'll get to that in a minute.
I remember that Hail Mary he threw to the tight end who's only caught like one pass through the whole season. It was like who? But that's Aaron Rodgers, man.
Let me say it again. Aaron Rodgers makes football players. He makes receivers.
He really does. All right.
Well, moving on. We have a 3-way tie for the number 5 spot. So this is pretty much going to be your number 7, 6, and 5. But they tied with a score of 6.6 in our scoring system that we use to balance things out. So I'll go ahead and start with this one because it may be the most interesting one on the list. Tom Brady. I guess he comes in as our number 5 tie here. And three-way tie. Yeah, he's not a fantasy stud. He has not been a fantasy stud. But when you give him all of the weapons that they have given him in Tampa Bay, you cannot help but bump this guy way up on this list. I mean, he's got Mike Evans, he's got Chris Godwin, he's got O.J. Howard, he's got Gronkowski coming back. I mean, this guy has got it all. And I don't know. I don't know if Tampa Bay's defense is going to be able to hold up in a lot of these shootouts in the NFC South, because you've got high-powered offenses that you're going up against in teams like Atlanta and New Orleans. So he may end up in a lot of shootout situations. And Tom Brady, he's got those big passes, and he's not afraid to run it if he has to. He's not necessarily a dual-threat quarterback, but I think this guy is going to bring home the bacon this season. And he's probably not going to be a sneaky pickup. He may actually go a little bit higher, his ADP, I think, than maybe what he's going to be worth, because people are going to be after him. He's the hot commodity right now. It's what everybody's talking about. So if he drops to you in, I don't know, maybe after one or two or three other quarterbacks have gone, then I'd snag him. But I'm not sure he will. People are going to want him just to have Tom Brady on their team this season, really. I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And they probably should. I mean, everybody calls him the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. And I'm a big Tennessee fan. That's Vols, not Titans. So I'm a big Peyton fan, and it used to always be them back and forth. And now Tom's pretty much surpassed him. I don't think you could really make that argument. But he finished last year, depending on how you use your scoring system in fantasy, as number 10. Okay, that's 10 overall in quarterbacks. So we've got him up tied for 5th. And that was with the weapons they had in New England, which they weren't really weapons. Now, like you touched on, he's got a wealth of weapons. And the only thing that's really questionable there would be maybe their offensive line. So we'll see if he can stand upright. And then running back, Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn. A lot of people are high on Keyshawn Vaughn. But as far as receivers and tight ends go, you could make the argument he has the best in the league. That's not who I would go with, but the argument is there and it can be made. Yeah. He's going to go pretty high, and Waring, as long as he doesn't get injured or anything, he'll probably do really well. He should finish at least inside the top 10.
Yeah, as Jeremy just said, Peyton Manning used to be that man. He was from Tennessee, but now it's Tom Brady, and he's from
I don't know, where'd he go? Michigan State. Where's that? Michigan State?
Ohio State. Ohio State.
Whatever. He's from Michigan. Go blue. Go blue. But I think he will definitely do well. Has a lot of weapons around him. Has something to prove. As long as he can stay upright, I think he will be very good. Will have a high completion percentage because, of course, he probably will do a lot of dinking and dunking. Have a lot of red zone weapons. So I think he will do very good there. They did draft. Again, Tampa Bay is doing everything to support him, so which is very good. Bringing in Gronkowski, of course, drafting in an offensive lineman for him. So they're doing everything they can to win, which is what you want your team to do. So they're trying to set him up definitely to win. So I mean, if Brady, you got to come in confident, you got to come in secure. So this should be a great year for him.
And they definitely drafted him to come in and win them a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Now. They did everything right now, which is, again, what you would want a team to do. So that's very smart of them.
All right. Where did you guys have him ranked on your own lists? Like, we had him consensus number 5.
I think I actually had him at 5. Oh, correct.
I was a little bit lower on him. I had him at number 10 on my list, but he did still crack top 10 for sure.
Nice. I had him at 7. Did we do Aaron Rodgers where we had him on our own lists?
I don't believe we did.
I don't think we did. I had, just to backtrack a little bit, I had Aaron Rodgers at 8.
I had Aaron Rodgers at number 7. So
nice. Weezy, you remember where you had old Aaron Rodgers at?
I had Rodgers at 6.
6. Nice. All right, so sweet. So that's Tom Brady. Everybody's going to be chomping at the bit for him. I think next up with the 3-way tie that we have for 5th place is going to be Houston's own Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson, he loses DeAndre Hopkins, right? He finished last year as the 6th overall fantasy quarterback, and then you lose that number 1. So you're thinking, okay, so how does he move up a spot? Well, We may have talked about this in another video, is they actually brought in a couple of other receivers to kind of cushion that blow. So now they have Will Fuller, which they had. Now they have Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, which we just talked about. They also have Kenny Stills, and, of course, they have Kiki QT. So these are all guys that maybe aren't that number one kind of receiver, caliber of a receiver, but they're really good number two. So I think since they have so many, he's got a lot of weapons he can dish to. Will Fuller might be able to be that number one guy. He showed flashes before he kept getting injured, so if he can stay healthy, that would be great. And, of course, he's Superman, right? Deshaun Watson, we've talked about it. He's getting hit in the backfield, and you're like, well, there's like a 10-yard loss for a sack, and he breaks away from like two guys, and then he throws a 35-yard touchdown pass or something, So it's hard to keep him down. He's really good. Of course, now he's got David Johnson running football for him, so we'll see if he can have any kind of resurgence. But Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, again, I want to hate. I think he's a great player, but I just don't like how the team did him. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh, no doubt.
But he is, I think, in a situation like Rodgers, in the sense that he's such a great quarterback that it gets overlooked in all that he does to make the team better. And because I've seen him many times with 8 guys on his leg, toss them off and still throw a touchdown. But the point should be there shouldn't be 8 guys on his leg.
No.
So, but he makes that touchdown, he makes that pass, and all the negative things get eliminated. But so I do hope he has a great season. I think he is good enough quarterback to have a great season, but his team did not set him up to have a great season. If that makes any sense. So hopefully he will. He's definitely a strong candidate. You can't sleep on him. You can't take him for granted. So if you have him there, you got to pick him.
Let me set the stage for you. It's early August 2017. I'm at Jeremy's house for a fantasy draft. Deshaun Watson has been picked up by the Houston Texans, drafted by the Houston Texans. It is the last pick of our 30-round IDP draft. And I see Deshaun Watson's name sitting there on the table. I picked up the sticker and placed it on the board. And I win this season. That was it, man. I had Todd Gurley as well, but I'm giving credit to Deshaun Watson. He was a great pickup. And like Jeremy said, we were watching that game, Buffalo Wild Wings, January, Bills, Texans, and Deshaun Watson, dude, he just put on a show in overtime. He was tired, his energy, he was still killing it. This guy gives everything he's got to give. And Jeremy already went over Deshaun Watson's receivers. He's got a possible A-list receiver in Will Fuller if he can step into that role and be that guy. He's no DeAndre Hopkins, but he can be that number one. And then he's got a lot of B-list receivers, tier 2 guys who are going to be better outlets for him to get rid of the ball. And let me say that I have faith in David Johnson this season. And see, I know it's a risk, and right off the head you're thinking, wow, he's injury prone. He hasn't had good seasons the past couple of seasons. The last good season he had when he was fully healthy, and then he had 2 seasons that were riddled with injury, and then last season he started off pretty well. He wasn't looking bad, and then he got usurped by Kenyon Drake, and and it was because he had a back injury. So I mean, if this guy can stay healthy, we know he has hands, and a receiving running back is something that Deshaun Watson has never had. Maybe these two might be a really good pair, and this might have been the perfect setup for a comeback for David Johnson, but that's only wishful thinking. Other than that, though, I really do have Deshaun Watson ranked really high. I really love this guy, and I think he'll make any fantasy owner proud, and he's not going to be like the first quarterback taken off the board. So you may actually get really good value out of him. He saved many of my weeks, no doubt.
Where did you have him on your own personal ranking?
My personal ranking, I had him number 4.
Oh, that's real high.
Yeah, I'm
what about you,
Queasy?
I got him at 6.
And I had him at 9.
Yeah.
So I have him down a little bit lower than you guys, mostly because of the line and having to be that Hercules every week. But he could easily be way up there as well. He could be another candidate that could be up there, top 3. So
yeah, it sounds like you'll have Fuller as like a number 1 wide receiver, but I see him as a glorified Deshaun Jackson. So he's a straight line receiver, great for the deep ball, but running routes and things like that, I don't see right now. But again, the time will tell.
Well, part of me wants to say hopefully the Texans weren't just dumb. I mean, they definitely lost the trade with David Johnson, but hopefully they weren't dumb enough to just say, well, we don't need a number one. Maybe they see something in Will Fuller that we don't. Maybe they have a plan we don't. I don't know. But I guess time will tell.
Exactly.
Make sure to follow the 3-Point Conversion host on Twitter.
Blue at Rastalion1131, Jeremy at CheckerboardJ, Andrew at Jedi Quarterback.